Sure do like pumpkins, Carton. It's Tuesday, the 9th of May, 2023. I told Toby I'd open with that line. If you can name it, you should be able to. God, classic. In fact, here's a clue for you. Um, they're making a sequel. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Toby's not going to guess because he'll probably nail it. If you recognise it, comment on the YouTube channel or on Facebook. Tiger Town Podcast. Welcome back. Zac dribbling as always. Going on with a whole lot of nonsense. Must be 2 wins on the trot. I think I've partially lost my mind. Toby's on the other end of the line. How are you this evening, my bald friend?
I'm not as confused as you are, but
Oh,
happy.
I ain't confused, brother. I ain't
Oh,
confused. It's 2 wins on the trot. Do you know that? Do you know that movie that I'm talking about? Don't
I
say.
do. I do. Yeah.
Good. So you should. So should everybody.
Everyone should
Um,
everyone should throw a spanner. That's what they should do.
everybody in this Xennial generation on the cusp. Too young for Gen X. Don't call me a millennial. You're the same. We're in that cusp. We're cuspy. We're cuspy folk. Everybody who's cuspy should know a line from that movie.
Basically.
Golden age. Golden age
Golden
for
age.
one-line films.
Oh yeah.
Well, what was that? Like early 2000s, maybe 03, 04.
Something like
I
that. It
reckon
was around the same time as like Anchorman and Step Brothers and
bench
stuff like that.
bench
So
warmers and all those sort of
yeah. Where it was like just funny
Napoleon Dynamite.
one-liners. Yep.
Those. That
And
was a
both could sip at
simultaneous
the same
sip.
time. Yeah. I was like, no one's talking, we're just both sipping water.
Simultaneous sip. Simultaneous. Yeah, so we've officially lost our mind. We're going to be checked into a clinic, I think, pretty shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, apologies for the tardy start. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Tiger Town Podcast. Thanks for the feedback last week. There was quite a few people. Focus check. Apologies. And yep, there's my fingernails. Quite a few people actually sent a DM. When I say quite a few, it was in the high single digits. So thanks for that, saying that they're glad the show is back and wishing us well after we obviously missed the show because we were crook a couple of weeks ago and we did some good numbers. So we are very happy to be back, mate. Have a good weekend. What's going on in your world? Give us the cliff notes very quickly.
Oh mate, same old, same old. Just got family. Learning to be a dad of two little girls, so that's always fun. But I think the big oh no, I played golf on Friday, so that was good. But the big one was I was live at the game on Sunday. I was there with a Dragon supporter, so one of us was going to be upset, and it wasn't me.
I
So
dare say at certain moments throughout the game, though, you both would have had your moments, eh?
oh mate, I think I said it in the chat. That last 30 seconds, I think I shit myself. I
Oh, good.
was I was sitting there on the edge of my seat, watching it go. How is this going to happen? How is this going to happen? How have they pulled a rabbit out of the hat? And somehow we stuck solid and made great cover defense. But watching that game live, when the Dragons were coming down for that try to get that last try, they bombed that like there is no tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Good. And so they should.
yeah, exactly. They've
They
played
had
in the last 10 years. It's fun.
yeah. We were due a little bit of luck because we certainly didn't get it throughout the game. And not that that was luck, they just made a poor choice. But how many times have we seen us or ourselves bomb one? We bombed just about a certain try in the first half as it was anyway.
Yeah,
Tommy Talau going for the corner just had to pop the Tupou. Instead, he ran towards the corner post
he did
himself and got
that.
tackled by Sully.
He did that twice.
I think we're going to get to talking about Talau because I've got a couple of notes on him, I think. But
Okay.
especially heading into this week. But yeah, we just got one back. Look, that game, I'm sure we'll jump into it shortly. But in my opinion, Dragons were very, very lucky to be that close to us, to be perfectly honest. I think we played reasonably well, and I think there was a number of chances where the bounce of the ball just allowed them to stay close and stay in it. So let's just put it that way. What did you make of the game overall? You're obviously there. You experienced the atmosphere. Let's actually, what did you think of Magic Round? You were there. Did you stick around for any other games, or did you just watch that game?
No, I watched that game and I stuck around for the Roosters Cowboys game, but wasn't too fussed on Parramatta Titans. But yeah, it was it's the third or fourth time I've been to Magic Round, and I love the concept. I think it's amazing. Like obviously get really invested in the Tigers playing, but you have a little bit of a flutter just to keep the other games interesting. But what it does do is allows you just to watch football and not be invested and not have your heart on your sleeve. So you can watch it. So I was watching the Cowboys Roosters game and being very, very happy while also being rather upset. So it was simultaneous. Like I was happily upset because I hate the Roosters because they just buy players and buy premierships. But at the same time, we had the opportunity to jump off the bottom of the ladder. So yeah, but it's a great atmosphere. My old man was the Dragon supporter that I took along with me. And he loved it. He had a great time, and he's like, he said he hasn't seen a live rugby league or live NRL game since I think he said 97 was the last time he saw a
Oh,
live
there you go.
NRL game.
And
So
this isn't a bloke on the periphery of the sport. He's been pretty hands on for a number of years.
yeah, he played reserve grade for Balmain back in the 80s. He was I think he was second in line behind Benny Elias. So he's definitely done his due
You don't
diligence.
you don't want to be in line behind Benny Elias. You don't know what he's dropping behind him.
That's true.
But
That's true.
yeah, but even post football, the old man stayed in the game for quite a number of years. He did quite a lot of trainer work and strapped
Still,
for years, and he's been
still
in and around
does.
the game a lot. So
Still
yeah,
does.
good on you.
So
Good opportunity to spend a bit of time, and obviously the Tigers win just made it all the better, right?
yeah, just made it. He's my old man doesn't swear that much. He's old school in that way, but yeah, definitely got
Bullshit.
bullshit. Definitely got a bit of expletives out of him, which was great. Same on the golf course on Friday. Got a bit of expletives out of him, but
Did you beat him? Did you beat him
oh
on the
God,
course?
no. He schooled me like there's no tomorrow. Nah, he schooled me. But
Yeah, not overly surprised there.
nah, me neither. No, me
Can
neither.
swing a club.
He can. But yeah, like I I missed out last year on Magic Round, and then obviously we didn't have Magic Round the year before. I went to 2021, but 2020 obviously unable to because of COVID. Maybe even 2021 couldn't. I can't remember anymore. No, we're all based in Queensland, weren't we? Something like that.
Yeah,
Whatever it
yeah.
was. And yeah, I don't want to miss it again. It's just such a good atmosphere. It was amazing, like just how many people got involved and all the we were like on the second level, but we were undercover, which was good for the Roosters Cowboys game because it hailed during the mid game, but we didn't get affected at all. But all the flags were waving and Tigers chants were going. You could hear them all over the stadium. But the best part about the whole day, bar the Tigers winning, was when we were watching the Cowboys Roosters game. There was a bunch of they looked like footy boys just having enjoying themselves and just larrikins. It was just hilarious. So that atmosphere I love. So, but yeah, it was it's the game itself. I can probably sum up in one word, and I'm gonna say disappointed. I was probably more frustrated. Not so much disappointed, probably more frustrated because watching that live and being able to see, like, obviously it's a different perspective when you've got bird's eye view, but watching how we were lined up and where the holes and the gaps were, we should have been up by 20 at halftime. They made Brooks made the wrong choice again, but it wasn't a choice that was costing us games. So that's something to improve on. That's been proved. But again, it was the wrong choice.
What choice are you talking about?
Quite a few choices. Wrong pass, going the flat runner instead of out the back when we had the overlap. But this isn't all
Have
on
you?
Brooks. This isn't
Yeah.
all on Brooks.
Have you? It's always interesting watching games live versus on TV, isn't it? You tend to notice more of some things and less of other things. Have you watched your game back on TV yet?
No, just the
Been
highlights. This is
just
what I saw
highlights,
from
yeah,
a
yeah.
bird's eye view. So what you don't see on TV, and especially with the view we were behind behind the Dragons try line in the first half. So we were watching all the times that they were attacking the line in that first half. And all I could see is how many holes there were and how many people were running at those holes, and he was taking the wrong choice. Now, in saying that, but I also saw a lot of the times where they weren't running the right lines for him and he had to make a decision. And so his decision was to play it safe, take the ball himself. And I did appreciate that. So this isn't my typical rant on Brooks and shitting on him like I have been in the past. He has improved from what we were first seen in the first few rounds, but I still think he's got ways to go to justify re-signing with us, to be honest.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, most
So,
definitely. I didn't see a lot of what you're talking about, but obviously it's different perspectives when you're there live. And if you're honing in particularly and you're looking at individual plays, you can look at a lot of the stuff they do off the ball too, and you can sort of see how those dynamics are building up outside of wherever the camera happens to be on the ball runner.
yeah.
So yeah, it does give that alternate perspective. So that would have been good for you to sort of see that. I've rewatched the first 50 minutes. I tried to do it this evening after I put the young fella to bed. As I tend to do, try to do a rewatch just leading into the pod. And I was relatively pleased with the half options. My big takeaway from the game was that we still make too many really dumb mistakes, just needlessly dumb mistakes. AJ Gapoa was a victim of not a victim, perpetrator of a couple of them.
Yeah.
Brandon Wakeham's
Not
massive
kicking out.
momentum killing. Yeah, that's
Yep.
just, it's criminal. But I don't want to crucify both of those players particularly, because I think Wakeham actually did some really good things, and then a couple of things that weren't. I like what Wakeham's doing at the moment. I'm not under any illusions that the Wakeham Brooks Hards combination are world beaters or they're going to take us to the promised land or anything like that. But in terms of sticking to what looks like the game plan, keeping things relatively simple, their execution lately in the last 3-4 matches, ever since probably the Parramatta game or parts of the Parramatta game, have been mucho improvo. Obviously, Wakeham wasn't there, but into the Manly game he was. Yeah, I'm liking what they're doing around there. But there's just the last few weeks, it's been dumb mistakes relating to penalties, and on the weekend it was a little bit of a mix of both. Kapoa sticking his leg out. There was a late tackle as well. That was on the weekend. Is that right? Or am I thinking of the Kapoa? Or am I thinking of the
He
week before?
took the kicker out.
Yeah, was it Sullivan?
Yep. And then Sullivan scored
Yeah.
off the next
Yeah.
the next set.
They also scored off when we failed to find touch.
Yeah.
As well.
Again,
There's
make these
key
mistakes
moments.
and can't back them up.
Yeah, really key moments. What they did a little bit better is they continued with the same pressure down in the end, and didn't give it away as many set restarts or penalties for piggybacks out, which I thought was good. That was an improvement. So the discipline in that regard was an improvement, but just individual efforts. Not individual, sorry, I shouldn't say efforts. The effort was really, really good. Individual moments where we're just making costly mistakes and the opposition are really pouncing on them and making the most of their opportunities. So that was my takeaway. Overall, I was really happy with how they're playing. I think they're doing the exact thing that we've been talking about the last month, which is starting to play to their strengths. I reckon it was never more evident than on the weekend. And as far as I'm concerned, I think the game plan was simply just open them up the middle, use our 4 big boys, or our 5 big boys if you throw Pollard in there as well, and play off the back of that. And they just did that to a T, in my opinion. It wasn't the perfect performance. We didn't execute in all of our opportunities. In my opinion, we probably should have had about 5 tries. So it should have been, 30 to 16, 30 to 12 or something like that. But you can't always execute on everything. And so that led it to be the nail biter that was. But I think overall we played relatively well. We controlled the ball relatively well. The kicking game of Brooks and Wakeham isn't too bad. The last tackle plays is clearly a ploy, so they are obviously very what's the correct word? They're very reluctant to put too many kicks into the in goal, as in they really don't want to give away second 7 tackle sets. So, which in a way is kind of a piggyback out of the end. So clearly that's a bit of a focus as they fix up that with penalties too on the weekend. And so they would often throw short balls to the centre as a crash play on the last play, which didn't work several times. And in the last few weeks, again, Brooks has been caught on the last, almost seems somewhat deliberately, within 5 metres of the line, and then backing their defence to keep the opposition down there. I would just like to see them roll the dice a little bit more. I think that anytime you're in the attacking red zone, you need to be able to at least create doubt in the opposition, at least create some sort of opportunity. And kicks are going to do that. Look, our kicking game, generally speaking, on the weekend, I thought was pretty good. The Dragons themselves scored off a kick. And so I think that, we nearly scored. They fumbled a couple, actually. Wakeham nearly got one in the first half, and then Appy nearly got one at the back end of the first half. Again, both off fumbly kicks. And I think if just those times, let's say that they kill the ball 5 times on 5 sets over the course of a match, which is probably on par with what they're doing. And it's clearly a deliberate ploy to make the Dragons or whoever the opposition is come out of there. And if those 5 opportunities are hard grubbers that they punch half cross field, they whack it at the post, so they put one of those medium lob balls that hits around the 5'8" mark rather than the winger. At least it creates an opportunity. And if one of those comes off every 2 games, that's an extra try once every 2 games.
Yeah, the issue is, and this is something that I was very evident of, or I found I was, watching it quite closely, was we weren't contesting at all. And it was frustrating me. Tupou, and this is saying something because I think Tupou has been one of our best. That was probably one of his worst performances for us, but he still played well. That's the thing. It seems that his best and his worst actually aren't that, well, so far, aren't that like too far apart. He has really good games and he has okay games. And that was just an okay game. Like he scored a try, scored a very tough try, just barged his way over. Again, Tommy Talia's not a centre, I'm sorry. We could go back to that later.
He's a slow second rower.
Yeah. And yeah, but he ran for, I think, 130 meters, had about 6 tackle breaks, but 3 of those were probably scoring that try. But he wasn't contesting any of the kicks, and Brooks was doing his traditional end over end, which is boring, and I just want to see something else from it. But we'll hopefully, been 10 years and he still hasn't developed the kicking game other than end over end. That's a bit frustrating, but he did place them quite well. But Tupou just wasn't contesting them, wasn't trying to get in front of them. So yeah, if we get those kicks in goal or we get those kicks right 10 meters out, then we're gonna have to, they have to contest them. And they just, from what I saw on the weekend, they weren't contesting really any kicks. The only one that was contested was when Todd knocked it back to, or was it Nofford knocked it back to Todd, and he went over and scored our first try. So
yeah, a lot of those kicks that they tend to put in around the 50 or the opposition's 40 in their zone, I think more often than not, they're not set up to contest, mainly because of the position of the kicker. See, depending on how the set rolls out, if there's going to be pressure on the kicker has to be deep, which means most of the chase needs to be in front of them. And it's quite hard, particularly if the defender makes any contact with the kicker, for the kicker to race through and put everybody on side, which means therefore that all those chasers need to stay back 10 meters. And that's the difficult thing, I guess. Occasionally you'll get somebody hang back and become a shooter and really try to shoot through. But even from that 40 meters out, it's quite a difficult situation. I don't discount what you're saying. I think it's a good thing, and I think it's something they should be trying to work in a little bit more, because like we were saying before, any opportunity is an opportunity, and it's a roll of the dice. Even if it's a 5% shot, that means 1 out of every 20 times, 1 out of every 20 high kicks or a bomb, we score a try. So I think that it's advantageous to make a contest out of almost every opportunity that you possibly can. So I agree with you. I guess maybe a bit of insight as to why they do that a little bit more so, rather than, it's not laziness, it's not an approach. I think it's just, I think the game being what it is, it can be difficult to execute that for that reason. That half always sits nice and deep. The other side of the coin would be if they sat flatter and wider possibly, and risked getting caught with the ball just to allow the chasers to be able to hang behind them and then maybe push up for the kick. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I just think in that end zone in particular, I don't mind, generally speaking, if they are 10 metres behind. Well, they hang back 10 metres, sorry. They allow the person taking the catch to be able to take the catch, and if they then muscle up in defence. And they've been doing that actually really well. And they catch the person on the 10 metre mark, provided that it is the right, the kick is in the right position, I should say. And then they have been muscling up quite well. And their line speed, something they haven't had for the best part of 6 to 8 years, is there in spades. It was there in spades on the weekend. It was really impressive again. And, it wasn't preliminary final Roosters, Melbourne, Penrith degree, but it was good line speed. And they were keeping a decently solid back five at bay. They got Sully, the Ravalawa. These types of players, the Fine brothers, are not small dudes. Sloan is slippery. They were keeping them down there really well. So, the kick chase. We've spoken about kick chase a fair bit in the past. I think I've started to think about it a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit more of a complex concept than simply staying on side and contesting everything. But, in simplistic terms, what you say makes sense. And I agree. I think that we should be trying to make more ball contested if we can, because it's only going to yield opportunities, particularly as a side that struggles to score.
Yeah, and that's, like, in saying that, 18 points, I think, is the most we've scored all year. So, it's just frustrating to see how many opportunities we keep getting and just not getting over the line. It's just really frustrating, but like you said, it's been better. It's been better than it has been. And hopefully it's just, again, finding our feet. Who knows, maybe we expected it to click a lot quicker than it has, and maybe it's starting to click. I'm not sure.
I think it's a very, very slow burn. I think I've used that expression a few times in the last couple of weeks. And I think the fact that we've won the last couple of weeks is really good, because it allows us to have a bit of hope. But I don't think we've turned a corner or anything. I think we're just still on that slow incremental upward trend. I think we're playing better week on week, but it's only 5% better every week. We're getting to a point where we're starting to understand our game plan and what our strengths are. And I don't think we're taking all our chances. I think we're still making a lot of silly mistakes. I think we're still inviting the opposition down into our territory and really.
Oh, we've lost him, people. We have lost his internet connection, so wait for him to come back. But yeah.
I'm still here, baby.
There you go. Yeah, we lost you for a little bit there, mate. And I think we lost you again. Look, he's having internet issues. He's on the crap side of Brisbane. He's on the north side. Crap internet over there.
That's a ridiculous statement. Thank you very much.
Well, you're the one having crap internet. I'm the one that's fine.
Hey, listen here. Last week it was you, and I didn't say boo. So there we go. Anyway, let's see how we go. I've changed. I changed over to one of my other Wi-Fi extenders. Sorry. What was it? What were we talking about?
How we're getting 5% better each week, but we're not taking our chances.
Yeah, just incremental improvements. And I think this team, from the team that started the first 3 weeks against the opposition that we had a big chance to win, some of those games at least, all three, some people said. I think if we played the Titans, the Bulldogs, and the Knights, or Titans, Knights, Bulldogs consecutively in the next 3 weeks, we're every chance of winning all three. And I think we're playing far better football than what we were at the start of the year. I just don't think it's revolutionary. I think we happened to get a couple of wins, and that's great. It's more than great. It was really needed. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we are. I don't think we've turned a corner. I don't think we're infinitely better. I think we're incrementally better. And I think coming up against the Rabbitohs this weekend is going to give us a good reality check. And I hope that we rise to the occasion and we're 5% better again. And we make a contest out of it, because let's be honest, they're the hottest team in the comp right now.
Oh God, they're on
favourites
fire.
now. They're on fire.
God, they're on fire.
They've beaten everyone recently. Penrith, they got them in the tight one. Brisbane, they pumped Brisbane. They flattened Melbourne. Who else they play? Somebody else do, I think, recently, but all the heavy hitters, they've disposed of them all. So yeah, it's quite the challenge coming up.
It is. It is. But hey, we said the same thing against Penrith, didn't we? So yeah, we keep it simple. Like you said, we play to our strengths. Who knows what could come of it? So
yeah, I think we play our game, and that's what they've got to start trusting themselves. Is not horses for courses, and not trying to adapt too much to the opposition. Understand your own game, which I think they're starting to. We've said many times now, and trusting simple game plans around what your strengths are. Play to your strengths. There's no good playing to your weaknesses. It's no good reintroducing new concepts. Play to your strengths and try to mitigate the oppositions in the meantime. So that brings me on to Tommy Talau. So seems a bit strange to single out somebody who had somewhat of an innocuous game, I guess, in a victory. But my concerns with him run pretty long and fast because I had every hope that he would come back this year and absolutely brain them in the centres. Now, it seems as though that he's signed for Manly for next year. So it seems as though he's just around the squad this year to help fill a hole. And we're a little bit short in the centres at the moment with Naden out and Kapoa doing a little bit of the second row thing. So he's the man at the moment, it seems. But on the weekend, there was a couple of instances. You alluded to one before. He's always been a bit of a run first centre, and he's been, early days he ran decent lines. He ran that outside in line relatively well. He scored a few tries off it actually, and relatively strong ball carrier. But he's a big fella, and I get surprised how often he gets folded for somebody the size that he is, and he doesn't seem to run overly softly to me. But he just looks like somebody who he never seems to physically dominate his opposition, despite the fact he's a pretty big dude and has had big raps for quite a while. And by all reports, was very successful in his younger years. But the major thing that concerns me about Talau, other than the fact that he is poor at servicing his winger, is his defense. His defensive reads, in my opinion, from what we've seen this year, on the same track as what they've always been, which is really, really poor. When him and Noffa were on the same side, when they played a few games together, I think it was the year before he did his ACL, maybe in 2020 or 2021. He had a bit of a run of games in the centres there. They were notoriously outside in and poor and really bad with it. It wasn't the type of jamming defence that you would see a Souths do really well these days. When they jam hard. And if someone wants to go around and they're going to have to go quite deep or lopey, and it allows their cover to come back on the outside and cover back underneath. But it's not so much Talau's one-on-one tackling ability, in my opinion. It's his reads. And twice on the weekend I counted where he created space where there was none, where he just unnecessarily came in. And it was really poor. And it scares me heading into this. Scares is a bit of an overstatement, but it worries me heading into this week against a side who, for the last nearly 10 years, to be honest, have had the best edge in the competition, and they've had different players in there. But something about South Sydney is that they do a second man play better than anyone, and they have for a long time. And if they're going to run anywhere near Tommy Talau, which if I'm Jason Demetrio, that's the only place I'm going.
Yeah,
they could score 4 or 5 tries down his side without even thinking about it, and it really concerns me. And so far be it from us to only poke holes. Talau's been picked. He's going to play in the centres. But if it wasn't Talau, given where we're at with our squad, would you put someone else there? What would you do?
If he wasn't suspended, I'd put Naden there.
Yeah, but he is. So Talau's obviously been picked this week because of that. But do we have any other options, in your opinion? Do we have anybody else that can play centres?
I'd do a straight swap for Kapoa. I think Kapoa is a better centre than Talau. And I think Talau could do a serviceable job at his second row replacement.
I think he could too, but I reckon you leave Talau out altogether, because I would have Kapoa in the centres and I'd bring Blore in. Yeah, Blore's a better second row than Kapoa. And even though Kapoa showed good early season promise, and Kapoa's a better centre than Talau. So there's this weird infatuation with Talau in the centres, and I don't know what it is.
Well, Sheens has done that. Well, actually, the Tigers have done that since day dot. Found a player that they just have this weird obsession with that they just keep picking, and we just can't understand why. really came to light when they kept picking Kyle Lovett. We just couldn't understand why. Actually, it's probably even before that when they kept picking Matt Bell. Just we couldn't understand why. And then went into Kyle Lovett. Couldn't understand why. Went to Seyfarth. There was probably somebody in between Seyfarth and Lovett, but I can't remember who. But it's just they just keep picking these players that we just can't fathom why. Like we can't see value in them. And you know what? Picking on picking a squad based on merit alone gets old very quick. It's
Yeah.
if they perform, if they train hard, if you train hard, you're gonna get picked. Rah, rah, rah. Yeah, you can train the hard. I trained hard and I'm bloody a C grade player. Should I get picked? No. If you
Oh,
train
most
hard,
definitely
it's
not.
fine.
No, most definitely not. Wouldn't pick you in 1,000 years.
Well, that's a bit
Nah,
rude.
you'd be first pick, mate. You'd have the C next to your name, eh?
Yeah.
Captain
No,
coach, brother.
don't do that. Don't
Um,
do that.
yeah, I agree. And look, Tommy Talau is he's a strong young player. He's a good footballer. He comes from great stock, obviously, with his father Willie. He seems like a nice bloke. Seems like a hard worker. He's had raps on him. He did really well in juniors. All this sort of stuff. So everything points to the fact that he could be a wonderful player. But unfortunately, that horrible injury he had set him back, obviously. But the problem with players that you hear about um, coming through the grades, or even when they've been in grade for a while, when that word potential gets continually used for years on end, a la Brooks,
Yep.
to the nth degree, it starts to actually become a bit of an eyebrow raiser, because potential should be something that you hear spoken about prior to them playing. And even maybe in the early stages when they're starting to play or they're still finding their feet in grade or whatever the case may be, that's when you can freely and openly use that word potential. But yeah, he's one of those players, I think, that hasn't kicked on. And whether it's the Tigers, it might be a Tigers thing. It might be a Tigers coaching thing. It might be the wrong environment. Maybe he'll kick on at Manly. And in many ways, I hope he does. I don't have any ill will to Talau. I just call it as I see it. And I think that he is not. I think there's better centre options at the moment, particularly given who we're playing this weekend. Look, I don't think even the greatest optimist could be hoping for three, or hoping for, obviously, but expecting 3 wins in a row, considering who we're coming up against. But yeah, look, it just does concern me with his ability or inability at times to make the right read out there in the centres. We've spoken before. I'm a major proponent, almost the mayor of the town of centre is the most important defensive position in the side. And
You are not alone in that.
what's that?
So you're not alone on that comment.
No, exactly. It's a common thing. I didn't invent it or anything, obviously, but I definitely subscribe to it. And if somebody has deficiencies in their ability to read the game or make educated decisions, split second decisions, you've really got to be able to make them, but they can be really costly. And mistakes in centre can lead to 2 or 3 tries. 2 or 3 little mistakes can lead to that. Whereas in the middle, you can be hidden a lot more, even on the wing to a certain degree. If you make a mistake defensively on the wing, it's not, in my opinion, as costly as what the centre can be. So I've got some concerns there, but
Yeah, and I think they're valid concerns. I think we can see, like we've seen it time and time again, what happens when you put somebody in the centres that um, just doesn't, they just don't fit in that position. Whether it's their defensive reads, whether it's, um, they're not running the right lines, they're not doing this, they're not doing that.
I think
Centre,
there's a lot of variables in centre.
yeah,
So
exactly.
I think centre is one of those positions where you can be a variety of different player, as in you can have a variety of different strengths and still play centre quite well. And all you got to do is go through examples of the top centres in the game to see that in many ways they're all different types of players. But with that comes obviously, if there's a number of strengths you can have in that position, there's obviously a number of weaknesses you can have, as you were saying. Your ability to read the game and make split second decisions could be a deficiency. You could be too weak, you could be too slow, you could be too big, you could be too small. All these things centre seems to have issues around. And as much as you could pick, I guess, successful centres over the time, or even just over the league currently, you could also pick a number of names in the last couple of years that we can think of that haven't worked out there, either at our club or others. And Gildart's a perfect example. Gildart's got a lot of strengths as a player, and God, he played for Great Britain and he played for England. He's international level centre. But he came out here and he couldn't crack it. He couldn't crack it when he loaned to the Roosters. He hasn't been cited at Redcliffe. He was respectfully pretty awful at the Tigers. Yet he's quick and he's elusive and all this sort of stuff. He's too small. He's too small and his reads were horrible. And it was just those couple of variables. If there's a lot of opportunities for you to make mistakes or to have weaknesses in that centre position. And that's why I think that the best centre is a very hard position to be solid at, because you've got to be very well rounded as a footballer, I think. And you've got to be reasonable in an attacking mindset. If you're just a plotter out there in the centres, you're not a threat to anyone, and you can freeze your winger out of the game too, which can be a detriment to your side.
Yeah.
But obviously defense is the area that we're speaking about quite a bit. And you've got to be good at a bit of everything, I think, to play centre reasonably well. Depending on the side and the makeup, you might be able to hide it and hide your weaknesses. And I guess the best coaches will come up with plans to do that. But look, I guess we're sort of not we. Oh, sorry, I'm going down the centre track a little bit, and I know that position pretty well because that's what I played for a number of years. And I know it's probably a weird thing to say. I'm passionate about that position, but I spend a lot of time watching centres of the game and spend a lot of time, studying different styles and, what went wrong in this sweep and, where are certain teams falling apart in the 3-quarter line, this sort of stuff. I find it particularly interesting. So I'm just off on a bit of a rant there, but I'll pull up and and we'll move on.
Sure. We'll come back. Yes.
Dream Buller, a name on everybody's lips at the moment, 3 games in.
Yep.
Is there something he showed on the weekend different that you liked, or is it more of the same? What are you seeing from him that you're liking at the moment?
I love his desperation. That's what I love. I think last week we kind of agreed to the fact that he's definitely a fullback that we've been missing in terms of, ball playing probably since Teddy left. I'm not saying he is Teddy. I'm not putting them in the same class just yet. But we haven't really had somebody that could essentially ball play at the back. And, he's still got work to do, but definitely seen glimpses of that. But his desperation has been like, he won the game for us at the end. He won the game for us by putting his body on the line, getting in front of them. He's not afraid. And he's a big boy too. Like, seeing him live, he's a lot bigger than I gave him credit for.
He's a couple of centimeters shy of me. He's 187 centimeters or something, which incidentally is pretty short for a basketballer. But he's not a small fella. He'll probably fill out a little. I reckon he could probably use another 3 or 4 kilos on his frame. But then again, that's where his agility comes from. But you made mention the try-saving tackle and the desperation. He made 2 on Ravalawa. He made another one earlier in the game as well. And we all know his efforts on Cleary against Penrith last week. But important to note, I don't know how closely people watched that last play against the Dragons on the weekend, but Jareen tackled Ben Hunt. He then pushed across and was in front of Sully to force Sully to pass and made contact with Sully, then pushed off Sully and made the tackle on Ravalawa to push him into touch. And not only that, you know who else was there that did all of those as well, that touched all 3 players in that play, was Papali'i.
That's good. I didn't notice that.
Yeah. So
I did notice that when Hunt put that kick through, he definitely had done his share of work in that game, and you could see that he was buggered, but he was still trying.
Yeah, he found his way in the corner. He was there in the corner with Buller pushing Ravalawa into touch. So that was really pleasing for me to see, because we know that Ice had a bit of a slow start to the year. A lot of our other recruits have actually really built in quite well, and we've been pretty happy with them across the board, I think. But I think we made no secret of the fact that he started quite slow, but he's really hit his straps, and that attitude-wise was really impressive for me. I know we started talking about Buller, but got on to Papali'i, but I really liked that. But
yeah, and I think that sort of attitude is very infectious. You know what Clemmer's going to bring. Clemmer's going to try to lift you up and be aggressive and get you to go. And I think that perfect example of who's benefiting the most from that is Steph. You watch
Mm.
Steph play now, and Steph's getting a bit more aggressive. He's really running hard, and I think a lot of that has to do with Clemmer by his side. But the attitude, that desperation attitude, it's like you know it, I know it when you play. When somebody comes and does a play like that, you feel obligated to at least try to do something similar to that every
Yeah.
play, or at least something like that. Like if you see somebody like Ice who has probably made 30 odd tackles, ran over 100 meters, done this, done that, still pushing and still trying to do that. If you're not in the back of your mind going, oh, fuck, if he's doing that, I've got to do this too, you shouldn't be on the field because that
Yeah, it really has that way of sort of pulling you along, doesn't it? As a player, when you see somebody put their body on the line like that and show that sort of desperation, and I think that is becoming infectious within the side. We're starting to see more and more of it. We're starting to see more people in that side do it more regularly, which is really encouraging to see.
100%.
You mentioned Steph. I was going to ask you, did anybody else impress you on the weekend? For me, I was going to mention Steph, and he didn't have an absolutely barnstorming bullocking game. But what I did notice is that he was backbending the line again and on multiple runs, not just one off run in the second half randomly at the 63rd minute. A lot of his runs were hard. He was on the front foot. He was charging. He was really trying to split defenders. And yeah, he really had his feathers up and his tail cocked, and he was going. So that's when he plays his best footy. And I'm hoping, like you said, it's off the back of building some confidence under a bit of mentorship, maybe from Clemmer. But if we can slowly keep winding him up and we can get him back to pre 2022 injury Steph, then we've got a hell of a player on our hands moving forward, and hopefully for a long time.
Yeah, I think another thing, I don't know if you noticed it, but that strength that we had, and that the fact that we were bending the line, or we were at least steamrolling their middle, which is fair to say that we were, that definitely subsided a little bit when both Clemmer and Steph came back on. But when they came off, but when they came back on, I noticed it almost immediately that we were punching through the line consistently. 1-2
Did you
punch,
know?
1-2 punch.
Yeah. Did you notice that when they came back on, 12 stayed on? So they actually had those three middles running through the centre, and I think 12's actually been better as well. The one who I think he hasn't been playing bad, but he's probably been outshined by the other three would be Joffa at the moment.
100%.
Joffa's not playing badly. He's just not
At the same level of those three.
he's not playing to the same intensity as what those guys are. And Foll in particular, he's found an extra gear, and if he keeps playing like this, keep him, because his ability to run off Appy in particular on that front foot and get over that advantage line and get that extra 3-4 meters and get split defenders and find his front is it's remarkable how often he's doing it in the last only 2-3 weeks, but he's doing it now consistently for across all those games.
See,
And I mean, it yielded the penalty at the hip drop, but it's also leading to a lot of quick play the balls off the back of it, and he's making big meters too. It's evident in his meterage in the last couple of weeks. It's big for a bench player.
It is. It's interesting too. You watch those four fronties and you include Joffa. Each one of them has a very different style of approaching the line. If you watch them, you've got Clemmer, who basically uses his leg drive to get through, to keep pushing, to find his front. Then you've got Steph, who just bends the line, runs hard, wants to try to get through. But
he's a barge player, Steph.
Yeah. But then you've got Twoley. Now, Twoley for me is very unassuming. Doesn't look like he's putting in too much effort when he really runs at the line. But then you look at his meters. It's like he's actually making those meters essentially with ease. If you really watch the way he's doing it, doesn't seem to be a lot of grunt to it. There doesn't seem to be a lot of aggression to it. It's, I know where I need to do. I know what I need to do, and I need to run, and I need to make meters, and that's what I'm doing. And then you look at the stats after it, and you're like, oh, I didn't actually realize how much he really contributed.
Well, he's actually quite quick for a prop.
Yeah,
and
what I think that break he made against Manly a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was good. I think what contributes to that is he seems very methodical. So if he's told to run between defenders A and B or defenders B and C, that's where he runs, and he gets there quickly. And I think he catches people off guard, so the defenders don't get quite as set, and he splits defenders. Whereas Steph will run straight on at someone and get the bump. And Clemmer will run and get the bump. And as you said, try to get leg drive for post contact. 12 will split defenders. And he's not the slippery type of second row, like a second row would, where they look to split and break, but he'll split them and find his front really easily. And I know that's a bit of a cliche, that term, but he actually does that quite well. And I think the speed helps to that. With Appy getting him over the advantage line, he's maybe a half-yard pace quicker than what most props are. So the defenders aren't quite ready for him to be on them so quick. He's not the most bullocking player. He's quite the physical specimen, I might add, but he's not the most bullocking player, so he's not likely to bust them apart. But he's on them pretty quick, is my opinion. And I think in some ways, in terms of speed of prop, he approaches contact different to Ruben Cotter. But Ruben Cotter's got quite quick feet, and he's at the line before they're kind of ready for it. I think Cotter hits front on, and I think he hits for impact. But I think Twal has that similar unassuming speed, so he's on them quicker. But Twal splits the man, and I think that's what the way that he plays. Joffa again is different. Like, it's a good point you make. They are in many ways different style of players. And then there's Pollett, who prop who's playing lock most likely, pretty agile, and he's all fleet of foot. So he's every week that goes by, he's threatening to make that half break. He's made a lot of people miss now at the line where that last minute footwork is brilliant of his. So it's interesting. We've got a lot of variety in that front row rotation or that middle rotation, despite the fact that it's going relatively well. And interesting point.
No, and yeah, it's just I was thinking too, like, you think about the way that Twally runs and, like you said, splits the man. Imagine if he added an offload to his game.
Yeah, well, he's done the odd one. So I know I was a bit slow there with the video, but he has done the odd one, and hopefully that can continue, because if we can get Jareem sniffing around him, and he can split those men and get that last late one, yeah, a lot of breaks to be had up the middle there.
Bloody oath.
Very good, mate. Well, we play South Sydney Saturday, I think, 3:00. Is that right this week?
Yes. Not what was it? Not 5:30 like you thought with the Panthers game.
No, not 5:30. No, I made that mistake once. So
if you do watch it at 5:30, you're definitely going to miss the game this week. So
yes, don't recommend you doing that. Obviously, let's not be willfully ignorant. We are coming up against the hottest team, as we mentioned before. It's going to be a very tough game, to put it very lightly. Saturday, 3:00, Accor Stadium. So I guess every team has a chance of winning a game. We saw that against Penrith. It can happen. I'm not expecting it to happen. I'm not sure about you. You're probably in the same camp, I would argue. What would you like to see in this game, though? So let's say that the Rabbitohs continue on their good run of form. Unfortunately, our side just likely won't be able to match it with them when it comes down to the nitty-gritty. They're just full of class and they're running hot. What would you like to see at the end of the game? We don't like to see a loss, but what would you like to see?
Ooh, excuse me, sorry, you caught me mid-yawn.
Sorry, mate. Shouldn't have switched. Right. Shouldn't have switched so early.
Like you said, let's not fantasize about it. But it's highly unlikely we're going to come away with a win, given the form that South Sydney are in. Like, Latrell's by far probably, for me, favourite for a Dally M. He's in that good of form. He's just flipped a gear, and that's scary to say that Latrell's flipped a gear, because he was good
for the Blues.
Yeah. Oh, good for the Blues. Great for the Blues. How good's that? He's
touch wood. He stays healthy.
Well, let's hope he maybe cops a little bit of a cork really early on. That just needs him to sit out this game. That's it. That's all he needs to do.
Just a light cork, and they don't want to risk him against the Wooden Spooners.
Yeah. Latrell, if you listen to this and you feel the need to have a rest this week, no one will hold it against you.
Go back to Winmurra, brother.
Yeah.
Go and tend to the cattle, tend to the head.
Yeah. Just have a break, mate. You've earned it. Go have a break.
After Taree, brother, go and do a bit of slashing. Go and
yeah. You don't need to be there. You don't need to be there. Yeah. You guys
throw the cattleman on, mate, and go for a ride on the quaddie. You deserve it.
Yeah, do it. I'm sure he listens to this. 100% does.
Take Cody with you. Maybe his family. They might enjoy a little holiday up at Winmurra there. And
while you're at it, chuck Cookie
have the weekend off.
Yeah, see if Cookie wants to go with you too.
I've heard Cam Murray's a big farm man. Like he
Yeah,
wouldn't
I've
mind a
heard
little.
this. I've heard this.
Look,
You know
hey,
what? I've got a really good idea. The whole I feel like the spine of the of South Sydney, you guys, you've done enough. Maybe you go for a bit of a Bali trip like the Knights did.
yeah, I heard Bradman Best has got some good Airbnb links. So
Yeah,
yeah, hit him up on the socials.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
tough ask. We've got a tough ask. They got quality players across the park. So back to what we're seeing. What are you hoping to see out of us?
I'm hoping, I'm just hoping to see more of that desperation. To be honest, I think that if I can see us putting in the effort for the full 80, regardless of the score line, when we played the Broncos a few weeks ago, the game got away from us in the first half and our heads were down again. I would just like to see, again, like you said, those incremental improvements continue. If we're 5% better than last week, I will say that if we played anyone other than the Dragons last week, I don't think we would have won. But if we're 5% better than last week and then 5% better from the week before, I'll be happy, to be honest. I won't be too frustrated if the loss happens because it is expected. Um, but yeah, just I don't know. I say it a lot with the games that we don't expect to win. I just want to see us to be competitive. But from what we've seen the last 2 weeks, I know we have it in us to at least be competitive. And
Yeah,
I'd like to just see that consistency. That's it.
I believe this side can match it with anybody on their day in terms of the physicality. The 17 men against 17 men, and the starting 13 in terms of the middle pack, I should say. So that the starting five in there, they can match it with anybody on their day. They've just got to turn up. So I I'll second what you said. I just want to see them. I want to see them for the first 20 minutes at least. I want to see them match them. If not, go at them. Go hard. You know, take them on. Why not? Don't just sit back and try to play a really simple game plan and just wait for them to come get you because they'll get you. They'll come get you and they'll eat you up and spit you out and chew you up and eat you twice. It's just what this side does. It's what class sides do to teams that play ultra conservative. Let's say. Go after them. I want to see them. I want to see them go after the game. I don't want to see fancy nonsense. I don't want to see side to side rubbish. I want to see them keep playing the game they're playing. I want to see a side that believes in their strengths. I want to see the side that backs themselves in their own special way, and I want to see a side that goes after it. I want to see Steph step up. I want to see Clemmer lead from the front. I want to see hopefully Bateman back in with a bit of mongrel. I want to see Appy doing everything he can. I want to see people racing up off the line. I want to see Brooksy putting a big hit, blindside hit on George Burgess. I want to see, whatever the case may be, Wakeham coming in and trying to smack Latrell and getting bounced off like Chris Sando. But I want to see him. I just want to see this side show they're up for it. And
Yeah.
if I see that, it's an attitude thing, and I guess that's what we sort of titrate it down to. I want to see the right attitude and the way that the side's going. I got every faith that will happen because I'm really pleased with what they're doing. I think that they're building slowly. But I think there's a really good core of a good side there, and I think the attitude is the thing that's slowly shifting. And with time comes improvement. And yeah, if they're getting those basics right, then that'll make us relatively pleased.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you on that one. So
Yeah, very good, mate. Well, how do you see the game playing out? Might not be the nicest question to answer, considering all the praise that we've lobbed at Souths. A mate of mine at work's a mad Souths fan. If he he's listened to the Odd Pod in the past, being a Souths fan, not a Tigers fan, and if he listens to this one, gee, he's going to come in all cock a hoot tomorrow morning with a big smile on his face. But we'll, not after the game, just after listening to the pod and how glowing we've been about Souths. But mate, what do you see happening in the game?
look, I definitely see Souths getting on top of us, but I don't see it being a whitewash. I see it maybe being like a 26-12 scoreline. So, they win by two tries and a bit. I think that's the way I see it playing out. So, and if
I
that's the
think that
case
would,
and it's a competitive game, I'm content with that scoreline.
yeah, I think that would be a good result, to be honest, the way we're going at the moment, particularly how Souths are playing. And that sounds very pessimistic, but it's not. It's realistic.
Yeah.
This is a side that flogged the Broncos and essentially locked out Melbourne in that entire first half.
Yeah.
So, this is a side going places, and we are still the reigning wooden spooners, and we're 17th out of 17. So, in some ways, what do we expect? But we've been competitive in all but one game this year against some decent opposition. So, I would like to see that trend continue. I like that. I think it might be a little bit more. I think they might get a few on us. I think that their strengths play to some of our weaknesses. We mentioned Talau, and our edge has been a bit shaky still, unfortunately. So I think they might capitalise on that. I'm seeing 36-12. As long as we can keep it, if we can keep it from getting cricket scory, obviously, then that's a good thing. Anything better than that, 100%. I'm wishing every hope that we do, and that it's tight and all that sort of stuff. Even better if we can somehow get a win over them, considering their form. But I see something like that. If we can keep it under 40, get a few points ourselves, and some positive signs in there, I think their class is good enough to be able to capitalise on a few half chances. So that might lead to a couple of tries as well, which might blow the scoreline out a little bit. But I like what you're saying. Stay with them. Stay with them for at least the early part of the game, or most part of the game. Make it competitive, make a go of it. Let them know they've been in a fight.
Yeah.
And I'll be happy.
Yeah, 100%.
Bold prediction, mate.
No point in saying the other one because that's just there in general.
Bold for a try for first-time listeners.
You know what? I don't think he's got one yet, if I remember correctly. So my bold prediction is Buller's going to get his first try. That's my bold prediction.
Yeah, not too
Not
bad. Interesting. You sort of stole my thunder a little bit. I was gonna link up to Buller a little bit as well, but I'm going to say
go for it as well. Go for it as well.
That's all right. I'm going to say Brooks 3 from 3. He's going to outshine Ilias. It's not going to be enough to win, but I'm going to say in the battle of the halfbacks, he's currently already scored Nathan Cleary. On the weekend, he scored Ben Hunt, and so why not? Let's say he can school young Ilias as well, and he can have he can be all three of their daddies.
Daddies are triplets.
Yeah, and how's it going to be? He's just going to play his game. What he's been showing a little bit more recently, kicking game going to be on point, decision making getting a little bit better. I tell you what, the amount of nearly breaks that bloke has made this year is insane. I've never seen somebody get held onto by like a finger or a collar or a tag or something more ever in a couple of months of football. It's dead set been about 10 times that he's been nearly through, and it's just, I got your pant leg or your sock or your collar edge or a fingertip or something, man. So he's due for a clean break or two soon, Brooksy, that's for sure.
Definitely.
All right, mate, it's been a pleasure as always. We've got a game to watch on Saturday at 3 p.m. Public service announcement. We do it every single week. Facebook page, Tiger Town Podcast, and the YouTube channel, Tiger Town Podcast. We like consistency around here. We always like to put out our shout out to the two podcasts that do it better than us, which is the West Tigers Podcast and West Life Podcast. Head on over to those blokes, tell them who sent you, and one of these days we'll get the shout out back. Maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. But they do good work. They do it better than us, so tune into those guys as well. Can't get enough Tiger content week to week. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. We're reasonably chipper. We're coming off 2 wins. How good's that? You haven't got the back-to-back win tattoo yet that's been going around on social media?
I did get brought up a very interesting fact.
Oh,
the last time Appy Coruscant won back-to-back games, his team won the premiership. What does that tell you?
Tells you we need to book grand final tickets. Today on sale at the moment.
That's right.
We're in. Done. All right, mate. As always, go the Tigers.
Go the Tigers.